Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Sports Illustrated Las Vegas Raider beat writer and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider podcast. Joined as we are on a regular basis with the great Johnny Shop. He's taken a few weeks off, getting some vacation time, enjoying the summer. We're all looking forward to training camp. As you know, just a couple days away. We're 2 days away from the 4th of July. And then once 4th of July hits, it is all training camp. The NFL mode goes to that. I was joking with an NFL player yesterday, Johnny. I said, "How you doing?" He says, "Man, I am eating anything and everything because when I wake up Friday morning, it's back to the real world." He told me, he goes, "This is the 1 week I give myself 1 week a year where I don't worry about my diet." He goes, "I am eating my mom. He goes, I fly my mom in, tell my wife, you don't have to cook for a week. We're just eating comfort food for
Um,
it.
I mean,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Are you sure you're not supposed to do that like 50 weeks a year? Maybe that's what some of us have gotten wrong over time.
I was cracking up. He told me, he goes, "Man, he goes, I'm having 5 or 6 meals a week." He told me last year, and I didn't even know this was possible. He said he gained 20 pounds. And he goes, and it was fine. He goes, I was actually less when I got to training camp than where I'd been the year before. He goes, so it was not a big deal. I know how to take care of my body. He goes, but it's a lot of fun. I thought that was pretty unique. So, John, I hope you haven't gained 20 pounds in the last couple of weeks.
No, I
You know,
I hopefully have gained some muscle, but not 20. That's an interesting game that player can play, as he hopefully knows, and he will be told he can probably only do that for so long. You can't do that after. We've seen some issues with that. But I wonder, have you ever told folks the Reggie White story about the cereal? Because that's one that I have never forgotten about when he retired.
oh, yeah, you tell that. That's a great story.
The way I understand it is when the great Reggie White retired, everybody knows who he is. Well, I ran into Hondo somewhere. It might have been in the South. And I think in a discussion, he said one of the things he was most excited about was he could now eat breakfast cereal again. I guess he had not eaten any breakfast cereal during the season or during his career. And when you think about Reggie White, he wasn't in the era of optimized nutrition and weightlifting and all that stuff. So much of his talent and strength was raw. I'm sure they were doing some training, but not anything like they're doing today. But he was excited about getting back to some of those breakfast cereals. That one always stuck with me.
I can't believe you remembered that. Yeah. I miss him so much. What a great and honorable man he was. Good guy. Great for the game. All right, John, we got a lot of issues to dig into. And I got an email from a Raider fan, and I thought this was phenomenal. And he knows that you're an attorney. His name is Paul Martin. This is what Paul says. Hondo, I noticed that Johnny Guitars hasn't been on in a few weeks. I hope everything's okay. When he comes back, I would really appreciate if you would ask this question. I believe, and so do a lot of other Raider fans, that the Raiders have been significantly hurt by the NFL. Some people think it may just be cheating by one official or two. Some believe it's a league wide thing. Obviously, we have no proof. But here's my question for John. If ever found out that there was a Tim Donaghy type situation, the former referee in the NBA, or that there were cheating involved, even if it was by a small minority, would it be possible for NFL fans to file a class action lawsuit against the league? Here's the premise of my argument. Although I am not an attorney, because of my business life, I've had to deal with them a lot. I remember as a little boy back in the 50s, there was a lawsuit against a game show for cheating. I'm just wondering, because as a Raider fan, it's frustrating. But if that's a potential, then at least to me, it would seem like the Raiders should be digging on that. Paul Martin. I thought that was a really good email.
It is. And, some of that's in the air. There are people that remember, I think it was called Quiz Show way back when, which got into a scandal and got into an action. So let's talk about a couple things there. The first premise is very broad. You can pretty much sue anybody for anything at any time. You can make a civil claim against anybody. It may not be worth the paper it's written on. So there is sometimes a difference between somebody filing suit and what they ask for, which means nearly nothing, almost never means anything, and a reality of making any collection. What you could see for sure, I think you could see somebody explore the possibility of a class action suit. I wonder if it would come from people who place bets on games that ended up being impacted and or decided by something that was either fixed or intentionally blown either way by an official. Now that's a long road, but that's possible. We think way, way back to the Black Sox scandal in baseball, and you think, well, this has happened before, just a really, really long time ago. Now, what we've seen across the sports landscape is concerning, and it's not slowing down. We've seen players, we've seen officials under scrutiny, we've seen it at the college level, at the pro level. We're going to see more carnage from this. And I hope, as you do, as everybody watching this does, we hope the NFL really starts to accelerate the improvement relative to officiating, using technology, using it in a smart way, using it to evaluate and keep the game as honest as it can be. As honest as the NFL has been or not been for the last, 75 plus years, there is a massive chapter turned when you legalize and practically support gambling. With that, they need to not just maintain or step up their scrutiny to make sure everything's on the up and up. They need to go above and beyond. If they did that and they were sued in a class action method, they probably have a much better chance of prevailing and defending, saying, hey, look, here's all that we did to prevent this and keep an eye on this. And these few actors that went rogue, that was totally wrong, but it's not on us. It's not something we could have foreseen. In that case, I think you have an NFL defense. The other end of the scenario is the NFL is very laissez-faire. They're just letting officials do what they want. You got a group of them colluding. You got a group of them working to fix the game, whether it's against the Raiders or somebody else, really dictating an outcome. In that case, you may potentially have a bigger opportunity to get liability on that shield of the NFL. But the individuals involved, that's probably the much stronger action. And then you circle back to a big class action suit against individuals. What assets do they actually have to collect? Maybe not so many. From a broader perspective, my eyes, college, pro, they are on the action of the bettors. Is there going to be something that's fixed or affected by an on-field cheating scandal? Is somebody going to get sued for it? I think we may see it sooner than later. So this may end up being a much more timely question than we could imagine here sitting at the start of July in 2002-04.
All right. So let me ask you this real quick then, because this one then is important. Let's just say if somebody blew a call. It wasn't cheating. It was just a mistake. If that impacted a bettor, would it, how you see accidents with cars and people get sued? Nobody intended the accident. Is that a possibility?
I don't think so. You'd be making a negligence claim. I don't think the official owes a duty to Tom Jones in Texarkana, who's placed a bet and he literally blew a call. We've all seen it. A lot of folks out there have stories about calls that were blown or guys that stepped out of bounds. I've got a brother that's got a Don Beebe story that we ask him to tell every couple years because it's so funny. Because he's walking towards the end zone, he steps out of bounds, and it cost him $500 or so. This is way back, obviously, Don Beebe land. But no, I don't think you've got a real good leg to stand on for making a negligence claim against somebody who literally just got it wrong. It's when it gets nefarious that you've got a problem. If you want to look at some big-time cheating scandals, look at the tennis scandal from about 15 years or so back. It was international. It was significant. Good news is the sports books, mostly out of Las Vegas, incredible security. They've got eyes on everything. So the likelihood of this kind of stuff happening is less. The likelihood of human error in making a call, the likelihood that sometimes it's hard for us to explain to folks without sounding like we're special. When you're on a football field, you're not seeing what you see on TV. you're not seeing what you see from the press box. It's on the same plane. So there are sometimes humans in the way that you can't see things around. So there will be calls missed. Sometimes the most obviously blown calls that we see enough of them. We saw enough of them last year. Sometimes the referees just don't see it. And sometimes when you see the interaction between an official and an NFL coach on the sideline, and it doesn't look like it got heated at all when maybe you thought it might have, a lot of times it's the coach asking, did you see that? Or, and the referee may say, I didn't see it. And it possibly he didn't see it because there's 300 pounders in his line of sight.
I remember one time, I don't remember if it was Kirk Cousins or not, but it was someone, I think it was Kirk, but if I'm wrong on that line, talked about, people being critical of a quarterback missing an open wide receiver. And he goes, and these are people that are not used to being around 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", 350-pound men who, when their hands are up in the air, now you're looking at 8 feet, 8.5 feet, trying to throw over them. And then, oh, by the way, while they're trying to kill you and you have your guys blocking, sometimes you're just not going to see people. It's just because you're on that plane. I remember one time specifically Nick Foles talking about, I'm trying to look between my blockers and the defensive guys, and the receiver was wide open, but there was a linebacker between us, and we're on the same plane, so I can't see it. People sometimes don't think about that stuff.
2 things there. Number one, the Citrus Bowl. When Cousins went up against the most talented Alabama team, especially in the front four, I think there are a couple first rounders right there. Just an idea of having to see around guys. That struck into mind. Cousins had a great career, but he's got some stories to tell about that game with one little missed assignment here, and all of a sudden you're getting closed in on. Guy open down there, you can't see him. The other thing is when we hear guys talk about he can see over the defense as a quarterback, that's what we're talking about. Most people watching this probably know that. A lot of people watching this are probably a little bit interested, like some of us, in the size of a quarterback and his ability to see over, because we know the problems it can cause. It's not the end of the world. Gardner Minshew's not a tall guy. He's had a fine career so far. Drew Brees had a good career, wasn't terribly tall at all. But there is something to what you can see. And when you look at a guy like Nick Foles, who is plenty big, there's still issues with what you can see even at that size. So as we look at yet another crop of quarterbacks, as we pontificate about the rising Trevor Lawrence or the falling Bryce Young, which guy is going to be the guy for the Raiders, there is a big issue and concern of how much can the quarterback see? Because there are guys that sometimes there are guys that people have told you, hey, this guy, we think he's an NFL starter. We think he could be an NFL winner. We think he could lead somebody to Super Bowl. It never, ever gets going because they can't literally see, or they can't put it all together. A lot of times it's what they can't see. It's college, no problem. Never an issue. They get to the pro game. This guy can't even start. It happens.
I remember an NFL lineman one time saying to me, everybody thinks the huge face mask looks cool, but the more you put in front of your face, the less you can see. And he talked about, it only took me missing a couple of fumbles, and I'm like, change the face mask. I'm not worried about looking cool. I'm worried about being successful. All right, NFL. All the attention now we know is going to turn to the NFL. The ratings for preseason are going to blow baseball out of the water. The ratings for preseason are going to blow the NBA out of the water. Hockey, all of it. There's a lot of attention on gambling. The NFL has embraced gambling. They're going up to do a big golf tournament in Lake Tahoe. I mean, there's a lot of it. This is a place where the NFL has to walk very gingerly.
Yeah, they do. And the ACC, to be clear, people know that American Century is not a gambling operation, but
No. I'm just saying up in that part of the country, there's a lot of gambling up there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what I'm interested in this year is, what is the presence of FanDuel, DraftKings, ESPN Bet? What is the presence of the gambling commercials in the NFL? Some of us think that the first few years of the gambling, you see as much advertising as you could, and it will probably drop down and level off at a point. I'm curious whether we will see that this year. The TV ratings are what they are. If you're in the TV advertising business and you want the biggest audience possible, you're buying as much time on the NFL as you can, because you just read what are the top 100 shows in the country, what are the top 20 shows. Sunday Night Football's been the top show in this country for a long, long time. Folks, those are the commercials that are most expensive on a regular basis. I'm curious to see how many of them are gambling this year relative to last. Does it feel like the same? Does it feel like more? And I'm curious how the market is going to sort itself out. You know, got one of those pans with the gold, you shake the thing and it falls out. Who's going to be left? Is it just going to be two big online gambling companies? Is it going to be three? Are we going to see more states come online? There's always been massive interest in the population centers of Texas and Florida. What are they going to do, as well as California, with the phone and with online gambling? We talk about it enough because it's a humongous story. Young folks don't understand how much of an earthquake shake this is. This is the biggest earthquake shake, really, in you can argue the business side of the NFL and the history of the NFL. That's what it could end up being. That's what I'm looking for as we get into July. When are we going to start to see these ads and promotions pop up, and how much? I mean, are we going to see people with action breaking down during the game of the Hall of Fame game? Are they going to be betting play by play, quarter by quarter? It's interesting to keep an eye on. It's not going anywhere.
So I want to ask you, there's a real big trend right now in the NFL with a lot of players moving away from agents and just hiring attorneys to do their contracts. Now, this surprised me. And the first couple times I heard of players telling me, okay, I'm hearing about it a lot now. And when I'm asking players, they're talking about how much cheaper it is, even though lawyers are expensive, how much cheaper it is. This is a growing trend. Can you put into perspective for fans why this is such a big deal?
Hopefully it's a big deal because we're seeing players get smarter and smarter and more resourceful. We have seen some massive hit and miss with this in the past. Guys fall on their face, maybe they're out of the sport, guys hit. But whether it's Lamar Jackson, who's going to get a lot of credit for leading this trend, or some other guys on a smaller scale, what we're seeing them kind of realize is maybe I've got resources to figure out what my market value is. I know what I would be paying an agent to represent me. I don't think I need that person's help to essentially put the same amount in my pocket. And maybe it's better for the team. Now, I don't know how that's negotiated. Is it a risk to say, hey, I'm not coming with an agent, so you can get me at a bit of a discount? Maybe that's entered the mix somewhat. Maybe it doesn't. We've seen great relationships with agents and players. You can easily say that the best of which we will see honored when they go into the Hall of Fame. We'll see it all the time. When Tom Brady goes in, he's going to talk about Don Yee. We've seen other guys talk about their agents and managers all the time. I like the idea of a triangulation. I like the idea of a player having resources in accounting, resources in legal representation, resources in professional management to try to figure out what the best deal is for them. Some guys, understandably, they don't want anything. I don't want anything to do with it. I just want to play football, do my best, and I'll take in whatever comes in. Other guys have been very lucky and had great timing and good representation, like Kirk Cousins, where it's like, wow, this guy got on a lucky street in many ways, and he wrote it well. We've seen others with big mistakes. It is a trend. I think it's going to be a circle, Hondo. I think we're going to continue to see a circle. So we'll continue to see this trend rise, and then there'll be some little wrinkle, and guys will go back to having representation. And listen, we all really don't know exactly what is coming with artificial intelligence. It may be remarkable that in a couple of years, a guy can type in just a few things and end up with unbelievable amounts of information that are really, really accurate, that just took a team of 4 or 5 highly paid professionals, just took them right out of the mix. He just did it on his computer. I would stay tuned for that. If that happens, agents are going to be in the dwindle. They're going to be less of them.
All right, John, I want to talk now about the Spring League. I think it's done well. I think it can do better. I think it will do better. But with the NFL world's attention turning after July 4th to the NFL. I think they should have their championship game on July 4th or even July 3rd, but I think they got to get the spring league done by July 4th.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know if we're in the majority or the minority. I'd be curious what people think. My dream was a league that started after the Masters and ended right around July 4th. This one has been a little earlier so far, but let's look at it from 30,000 feet. This is really the second year, the first year of the UFL. Some of us, I think it's going to take about 4 years to really catch on. I think there was some significant momentum this year. I know you've got some potential weather issues. They're always going to be in there if you move it a little bit. But I like the idea of the Pro Spring League ending closer to July 4th. The NFL has to have a huge input on that. Is that enough time for players who play that to rest? I think so, but I would yield to them. The Spring League is good, though. I think it's growing. I think it's a couple years away from really catching its stride. I'm curious, what tweaks are they going to do next? Look, they've led the way with tweaking rules, tweaking kickoffs, tweaking replay review stuff, transparency. These are really good things. We love it. Some of us use a little bit more of a break, though, and start it like after the Masters or after the tournament and stretch it out a little bit. And it would give us this dry time where there are no games. It would shorten it up a little bit. A lot of us would like that.
I agree. 100%. I'm all for it. Last thing we got to talk about, then we got to move up because we're up against the break. But NFL Sunday ticket. The NFL does not lose. They lost big. Big. And we're not talking about, a billion. They lost billions of dollars in this NFL Sunday ticket. A lot of people, I know that it was a lawsuit filed by a bar. I think it was called the Mucky Duck or Murky Duck in San Francisco. The NFL loses it. John, we talked about the other day with Matt Hladik, simply from a layman's terms, but you're the expert, you're the attorney. What does this mean to the average fan? How is it going to change the viewing? Can you break this down, please?
I can. Here's where I'd like to start, because this is interesting, and a lot of folks it's not that they're late to the party.
Can I just say something to you real quick, John? I'm going to be taking notes. So if you see me writing, I'm not ignoring you in the least bit. Of course, I don't do that. I'm literally going to be taking notes on what you're saying.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So this is something that's gone on a long time. It just went to a jury verdict. It's very interesting. What the plaintiffs are saying in this is, look, the NFL worked together with its broadcast partners to inflate the price of Sunday ticket. That is basically the simple argument that plaintiffs have made. The NFL, on the other hand, says, hey, Sunday ticket is expensive because it is a premium product. This is a case about choice. This is a valuable premium product. You think about all the choices available. We want as many people watching the free broadcast as they can. This is a premium product. And that's a reasonable case to make. They are saying, look, premium product, this is what the market will bear. How in the world can you guys claim damages here? The plaintiffs have convinced the jury otherwise. The plaintiffs have essentially said, hey, these people were colluding together and trying to inflate the cost of this. It became unaffordable, and therefore our clients have been damaged. Now, it's interesting when we put it in the context of what's going on right now, because we are seeing games taken away from Sunday ticket. They're being put on Amazon. They're being put on Netflix. They're being taken off of that ticket. Yet the price of the ticket, what's going to that? The price of the ticket is staying level, or it's going up. For those of us that have already renewed, we know it's not like the thing all of a sudden has dropped by proportionally how many games have been taken off that ticket. So this is a jury verdict, and there will be, I'm sure, a set of appeals. There will most likely ultimately be a settlement at some point, because that's how most, even when tried to a jury verdict, are resolved. This is going to get the attention of the NFL owners. This is not a small damages award. More than $4.7 billion is a lot of money, no matter if you're the most popular form of entertainment in the country or if you are Sam Walton's heirs. That's a huge amount. This is probably going to take a while, is my guess, on appeal. It's interesting. A lot of people are all for market forces. It's like, hey, market forces are great. But on the other side, there is, are you manipulating the competition? Are you going essentially too far? This is interesting because this is a civil case that went all the way through the process, and it is an unbelievable, huge verdict. That is a lot of damages. We're going to watch this probably for 18 months or so and see what happens from here.
Fascinating to me. So if I understand this correctly, I'm going to layman's terms. If I buy NFL Sunday tickets because I want every out-of-market game.
Originally.
If they're putting,
Originally, yes.
Yes. So if they're starting to put games on Amazon and they're starting to put games on Netflix or wherever they go, and I'm losing those games, but my cost isn't going down, that's where the lawsuit was essentially?
That's kind of what it's actually, I think that's what it's kind of morphed into be. When this thing was filed, we're not dealing with the same situation that we are now. But yes, the NFL is saying, look, it's a premium product, premium price, and this is what the market will bear. And the original plaintiffs are saying this is all people cooking the books. They're not living up to what they said this would be, really, first of all. And they're cooking the books in that they are conspiring together to keep the price higher than it should be. It is really murky stuff. This is not very simple and clear. This is not looking at a fractured finger in an X-ray. And juries are involved. Juries are unpredictable at best. But this is interesting. This is a significant pushback from a jury. 12 strangers that were basically selected / not eliminated. And this is going to be something to keep an eye on. I don't think there's a huge effect on the other sports leagues. We don't really care. The other size of the other sports leagues is proportionally, fractional to the NFL. This is a big deal, though. We got to keep an eye on it. Let's see what the shakeout is as this ever evolving landscape of where you can watch, when you can watch, and what services do we have to watch all the games. We used to just have to have the Sunday ticket. We got all of them. Now we have to have at least 3 streaming services. Tricky time for the consumer.
John, great to have you on. Appreciate you so much, and I hope you're enjoying your vacation. We're going to talk after the 4th, man, and we'll be all football all the way.
Can't wait.
It's going to be a lot of fun. John, tell everybody where to find you on social media, please.
I'm on there at JP Smartin on X. I got some pictures of some bears I saw in the North Georgia mountains just the other day.
Many of you don't know, John's a highly successful attorney down in the Buckhead, Atlanta area, and an award-winning journalist. We're great to have him. It's great to have him on each and everywhere. Thanks, John.